It is my honor and my privilege to welcome Mel Horvath-Lucid. Mel is a wonderful friend of Unity Kitchener. She's the Director of Congregational Life and Learning at the Unitarian Congregation of Guelph, and she's a trained mediator with a focus on leadership, coaching, and transforming group dynamics. Mel is a student, as I mentioned, of Unity, and she resides in Waterloo with her husband and 5 beautiful children. Welcome, Mel.
So good morning, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that song. It's one that it like feeds my absolute soul. And I'm just getting my slides set up here. So I want to talk this morning about the daring heart, but I want to talk first about the experience of sameness in our lives, or the perception of sameness in our lives. And what I notice this shows up for me as is, oh my gosh, I'm walking the same mountain over and over again. And sometimes I might receive something that comes up again in my life and say, here it is again. Here, yep, we're doing the same thing again. And I noticed recently that that I was a bit crunchy, and I was crunchy because I felt like an experience for me. This had come up before. I had put effort and energy into solving this, and now what the heck? Here it is again. And so I'm crunchy. I am absolutely crunchy about this. And the last time I spoke, I was talking about the posture of yielding, and I was talking about yielding to divine and yielding to spirit, and I have been doing some deep inner work about noticing where I'm positioned. Where am I positioning myself within the moment that I'm in? And frankly, what posture am I holding? And so divine in this moment and through meditation invites me to look at this experience of sameness and this crunchiness I'm having toward it. And as I peer in to the experience I'm having, I notice it isn't the same at all. I notice that I have kind of like a choose your own adventure story. I have this choice now of how I'm going to approach this. But even more phenomenal, and this is the transformative piece that Unity talks about so much, even more powerful still is through prayer and meditation. I peer through the lens of my own self and I see, oh, the last time I responded to this, I actually responded from a fear-based answer. And I sought to do this, this, and this. And I literally in that moment could see the fear-based response that I offered last time. And all of a sudden in this moment, all the crunchiness, sort of like a shattering statue, disappears. And all of a sudden, I'm excited. There's possibilities. I'm given another opportunity with wisdom I have from last time to respond in this moment differently and anew, and specifically to ask myself the question, what would love do? How would love respond right now? And I noticed that the response that was required, that was being called of me, would take great courage. It would take great courage to show up with that rawness and vulnerability within that experience. But what I saw more clearly than that was I wasn't going around the mountain, the same spot on the mountain. No, we are being given opportunities to spiral deeper, to learn deeper, to experience deeper. And just as fear is very, very complex and dimensional, so is love. So a response of love one time may look different than the response next time. My husband and I were talking on the back porch recently, and in short, he said, it's kind of the coolest thing to think. He had heard this talk, and it was talking about how you only experience stepping into the river. You're the only one that's going to experience stepping into that river at that point. That the next person who steps into the river will have slightly different water moving, slightly different speeds, slightly different. What a phenomenally powerful thought. This is all moving and changing. There's variables. And one of the invitations, one of the gifts of the pandemic has been this slowing down and noticing. My daughter and I were walking and she said to me, "This is the time of year I love the most. I love when the trees go from completely bare to bursting full of life, seemingly overnight." And then I found myself last week and the week before talking in meetings, which I do frequently, and we have something called a check-in. And I don't have much to check in on because I'm mostly home right now. What I noticed was I was checking in, sharing the relationship I have with the tree in my front yard. And at first this seemed funny to me to be talking so much about a tree, but I noticed the tree going from a bud. I noticed the intricacy of the change to this little leaf, to this bigger leaf. And as I gaze out this morning, I see almost full grown leaves in front of me. Never in my life have I been so present to watch the process of the unfolding of a leaf. That is the type of presence we can have. That is the type of being in the moment energy that we can give to ourselves and give to our lives. And so that presencing then is to realize each moment is anew, and each moment is inviting us to ask whether we want to respond with fear or love. And that within that, there is this changing energy, this changing experience. Brene Brown says, you can have courage or you can have comfort, but you can't have both. And what I've noticed often is we are orientated towards seeking comfort. And fascinatingly enough about comfort is it's not where we grow. But I like things the way I want them. You may. Or do you want to grow? Well, I want both. Okay. Then have that time to have that inner conversation with yourself and to feel that tension between the two. And when we're ready, we release the comfort and we choose to live in discomfort and respond with love. That is where that spiritual maturity happens, is when we say, oh, I'm feeling this. Now what would love do? And there's a beautiful circle diagram that I source often in my work, and it's the inner circle's comfort, the middle circle is discomfort, and the outer circle is overwhelm. And what we know about overwhelm is once we get to that point, we can no longer hear, we can't see a path forward, we are unable to orientate ourselves. And yet, right before that in discomfort, it is like the powerful point of staying in a place of tension where we're growing, we're challenged, and then inviting ourselves to bring the power of love into that equation, to bring the power of love into that discomfort, rather than retreating to comfort or retreating to overwhelm. Well, now I'm just too overwhelmed. It's too big. I can't do any of it, so I'm not going to do any of it. I can't do all of it, rather, so I'm not going to do any of it. That in and of itself is like a comfort that we create. So there's powerful courage in the act of yielding to love, of being uncomfortable, saying, hey, I'm uncomfortable. I actually am noticing this, this, and this coming up for me. And instead, I'm going to be here in this moment in love. So we choose to hold a container of love that is greater than whatever sensation we are feeling. But that discomfort, that uncomfortable place is where we grow. It's where we begin to see healing. It's where we begin to connect and grow with other people, is through being uncomfortable. So I was talking about the peering into life's experience with new eyes and a whole heart. And Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, protect your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Not like a little bit, not like maybe some stuff flows from it, some stuff doesn't. There's other things. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Literally everything flows from it. Everything flows from love. And what a powerful source that is, to think about this river of love flowing. And oftentimes then it becomes a fear-based response to say, protect. Oh, protect must mean I armor it. So I'm going to armor this heart of mine so that it cannot be hurt. And I would suggest more that the energy of protect would be similar to that of holding your heart like a baby and asking, what is it my heart needs now? So then it becomes an act of tending to, caring for, investing in, trusting. That becomes the energy for which we are yielding to our hearts, this powerful place for which everything flows from. Caroline Myss says this: when I look at someone's face, I look beyond their face into my heart that says, finally, you and I have met again, and we must find out why. When I read this quote, it shifted both how I meet another, and it also shifted how I meet those experiences that come up. Oh, hello there, experience. We're meeting again. Let me look past this experience into my heart. And now I'm back into this place of curiosity and openness and generosity. And I'm being given the choice, once again, to choose how I show up. The courage to show up with love in whatever it is I'm experiencing, with whomever it is I'm experiencing it. But there's a difference in the energy of looking beyond the face into my heart that says, finally, you and I have met again, and we must find out why. This is the space that becomes rich with possibility, with transformation, with energy of connectivity. It's far different than the crunchy sort of response that I had initially. Oh, I've done this before, I'm not doing it again. I'm seeing this, and I'm curious as heck to find out why this is coming up. What am I meant to learn? What is it about this that is offering me the gift of learning? And to be frank with you, offering me the gift of coming and approaching this with the wisdom and the ability to choose love in that moment, however that looks like. And like I said before, love holds many dimensions. So it's inquiring in each moment, what is love calling from me now? What is love bringing forth in me now? And I promise you this, when we do that type of life leading, it calls us into radical candor. It calls us into radical ways of showing up in our life. It calls us into vulnerability, speaking our truth, being authentic, being daring, being bold in these moments, in these exchanges. It calls us into the full expression of ourselves. When I was looking for verses that talk about love and fear, I didn't actually pick one at all. What I noticed was this. There was over 365 verses that say, do not fear. Do not fear. In all those exchanges throughout the Bible, there is moment after moment, experience after experience, where divine is saying, do not fear. Fear is not the answer. And we can still notice that fear coming up, that discomfort, and step forward with love. We can feel fully and still choose with courage to move forward, to step in, to lean in with love, to say, what does love look like now? And that's where the tool of prayer and meditation becomes so vital, because oftentimes if we don't give ourselves the gift of slowing down, we miss it. We miss it, and we do whatever protective sort of action it was that we always did. And we miss all the change and intricacies of things that are happening within ourselves. So our gift, the gift of meditation, of prayer, of positive affirmation, is that it slows us down and it centers us in to a place that we can show up in divine potential, which we know is infinite. Now we're running from the infinite wellspring. That's how we do it, is we yield to the divine. We yield to something greater than whatever that sensation of fear is coming from in that moment. So what would it look like in this moment to yield to my heart rather than fear is the question that I've been living repeatedly in my life over and over again. And it's the invitation that divine is calling us to in every moment. You're not experiencing the same thing over and over again. You cannot step into the same spot in the river and experience the same thing again. This is the power and the transformation of life. And you show up in each moment. And if anybody else, when we think about this within a community dynamic, if you show up with love in that moment, however that looks, and somebody else does, we've already shifted the web of connection between us. We are already experiencing something different than we have before, because we show up as our full selves, as our whole selves. Fear says no more. Fear no more, says the heart, rather. Fear no more, says the heart. And the opposite quote to that is fear says no more. So it is that place of opening in ourselves and within our lives. I want to, before we move to, I'm going to stop share and I'm going to read for you the words that have resonated with me probably over the last maybe 7 years by Bill Hicks. He says this, says, the world is like a ride in an amusement park. And we choose to go on it. We think it's real because that's how powerful our minds are. And it goes up and down and round, and it has thrills and chills, very brightly colored and very loud. And it's fun for a while. Some people who've been on the ride for a long time, and after a while, they begin to question, is this real or is this just a ride? Some people have remembered. They come back to us and they say, hey, don't worry. Don't be afraid ever. This is just a ride. But we say, shut them up. I've invested in this ride. Look at my furrows of worry. Look at my big bank account. Look at my family. This has to be real. But it's a ride. We create our story. In our culture, we've been trained for individual differences to stand out. So we make all these categories and we put people in them and we try and squeeze ourselves into them too. It is the very definition of fitting in. The very definition of fitting in, and we do so at the exchange of true belonging. And then we say, see how separate we are. One of the dramatic characteristics of experience is coming together and suddenly seeing the ways for which another is like you and you are like them. That's the essence of you, that the essence of you is in them and their essence in you, and that there's only oneness. The eyes of fear want you to put bigger locks on your door, build armors, and close yourself off. The eyes of love instead see all of us as one. And in each moment, we really have but one choice. Do we choose fear or do we choose love? Thank you.
And now I invite Mel to lead us into meditation.
All righty. So the daring heart risks showing up, being seen, being vulnerable. The daring heart holds space, the innate gifts that we are meant to bring, and then brings them wholeheartedly. and meets each moment and experience much like Caroline Myss described, with generosity, curiosity, saying, when I look at someone's face, I look beyond the face into my heart that says, finally, we have met again, and we must find out why. Breathing into this space of possibility, I offer you a reflective prose that I wrote after the sharing of the talk on yielding. Oh, to yield to love, to life, to the moment, to another. The way that winter yields to spring, the way the rain yields to the ground, the way the ocean yields to the shore, the way the stars yield to the universe and the universe yields to the stars. To not only stop long enough to smell the roses, so to speak, but to really see it, feel it, to gaze upon one's own reflection and that of another until the division disappears, to soulfully know that we are connected, to be brave enough to allow that resonance in another to resonate in you, to feel within in a way that defies time, space, and limitations. What would your soul have missed today if you didn't look? Will you accept the dance that's moving you? Will you allow the music to dance you? To yield to my own heart, to my tenderness and humanness, to finally kneel before myself and yield to all that is and isn't, and to do so with love. To feel the brightness of the unexpected, to make room again for magic. To be held because there becomes a blooming willingness to allow myself to be held. To yield to my heart rather than fear. To rest within a leaf or on the edge of a cliff and to yield to expansiveness. To notice the spaces that shrink when others expand and to delight in this unfolding, moving grace with flexibility and non-attachment. The ability to yield comes from vulnerability, to see the movement in the spaces that look stagnant, to see the stillness in the places that look like action, to be held close and let go in the exact same moment, to notice that you are brave enough to once again be moved.